Hello, friends. Glad you could join us. Welcome back to another edition of the Midwest F1 League. Tonight we head to the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore for Division 2 action. While we have a second, let's go over our starting grid. Frenchie will start from the tail end of the grid. He's picked up a 5-place grid penalty in the session for colliding with Brian Mosser out on track. It will be the Ferrari of Josh Sr. starting in 12th. 11th belongs to the Noganator. 10th to Anbu Mason. Brian Mosser 9th. Gab 8th. Adel Tony in 7th. Knuckles in 6th, Israel 5th, Slayerized in 4th, Race Chase in 3rd, and then Cam Tizzle starting 2nd, Dusty Lusky on pole, only 0.2 of a second separating the top 2, 3.5 separating that top 3 of this grid, quite dispersed. And what I do here is this: I think there might be some rain on the way towards the back end of the session. Should be a fun one coming up here. Let's have a look at the driver and constructor standings. Dusty Lusky does lead the driver standings by 14 points, 254 to 240 of Gab. Noganator in 3rd at 234, 230 for Cam Tizzle, 206 for Slayerized, 195 for Brian Mosser, 186 for Israel, 185 for Knuckles, 180 for Anbu Mason. And Frenchie rounding out the top 10 at 176. Those are your driver standings top 10. As far as the constructors are concerned, heading into this race here tonight, Red Bull atop the table 446. The Alpines at 398. V-Carb at 319, 315 for the McLarens. 305 for the Haas, 254 for Williams, 253 for Ferrari, 251 for Aston Martin, 250 for the Saubers, and for the Mercedes at 209. Well, I tell you what, suddenly, it does look as if this constructors' battle could go, it's gonna be crazy here going into the last 5 races of the season. Of course, Singapore tonight, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and COTA to round out this 13th season of the Midwest F1 League. It's been a hell of a ride, and I seriously hope that we can continue to have such a good product that we do strive to have week in and week out. Under the night sky here in Singapore should be a fun Grand Prix. This circuit, unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that this circuit has undergone some massive changes in the recent years. Most notably is this. As it turns out, in real life, they've actually added, a 4th DRS zone, that being from the exit of turn 14, the hairpin after the other one, that DRS section of 13 to 14, exiting 14, should be in real life a DRS zone going from 14 through the kink of 15 in towards the braking zone right-hander turn 16. That is actually not in the game. That apparently is not accurate. So even though they just had an update literally 2 days ago, I don't understand why that it's so hard to actually get things right, but that's okay. Formation lap now underway. And it'll be interesting to see what tires we do see people go on to here. I'm assuming we're going to see most of them on the mediums. As a matter of fact, all of them have gone medium. Cam Tizzle has decided to go hard this evening. I'm assuming that's because, well, the rain shouldn't be in until 45 minutes time. It's going to be a lot. Of course, 31 laps of this circuit tonight, so I don't necessarily believe that we're going to see the rain right away. It's going to be quite a while, and of course, if a safety car comes into play, that will happen earlier. I'm thinking realistically for the drivers here tonight, your goal is to just be clean and get through this race as easy as you can. One-stop strategy, lap 15 to 22 is the window to go from medium to hard. Whether or not you choose to make it at that point, or if the rain has started falling or not, that's the question at hand. So for Dusty Lusky, has an opportunity to extend his championship lead here tonight. I think it should be a fantastic opportunity for him. Looking for, well, that is actually not updated. Can I look at the results page? From Miami, it was that of King Pro Player who finished atop. It was Race Chase in Azerbaijan. And then, of course, it was Race Chase in Baku as well. In Monza. So Race Chase has won 2 out of the last 3. Dusty Lusky hasn't won a Grand Prix since round 4 in Portugal, where he went back-to-back after Belgium. A couple of races left on schedule tonight. Of course, 4, really different tracks, at least. Singapore, pretty technical. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's definitely not the best. As far as really quick, it has gotten much better, this track. It used to be one of those tracks you do dread going to. Now it is very fun. Brazil, after that, one of the best races you'll see usually on calendar. Canada, very difficult, though not stranger to some fun moments. Japan, I tell you what, another one of those tracks, very difficult, very old school, still provides some fun moments. And then, of course, Coda at the back end of it, which does usually provide some fun racing. We're just waiting for Frenchie and Josh Senior to join the grid. Frenchie's been disqualified there, as well as Cam Tizzle and Nate Eltonian. The grid lined up now. Dusty Lusky will have the outside going into turn 1. Cam Tizzle the inside, despite being at a disadvantage. 3, 4, and eventually 5 lights here in Division 2. And they are off. And it looks as if the V-Carb's actually gotten a damn good start here, as well as the Red Bull in behind. Already Slayer Eyes looking to have a move up to the inside. He's to the inside of Race Chase. Won't quite get that move made, although who is making moves, albeit in the negative direction, is that of Adeltoni, and Gab has gone down to the inside and has taken the Sauber off the line. Slayer Eyes is now trying to go around the outside of Race Chase. Chase is going to go well deep into the corner. Slayer Eyes up the inside and has made it happen. That may allow Israel into the picture as well. He may get the slipstream from the Red Bull here. Race Chase still defending the inside. Israel's going to have to try to outbrake around the outside. Not going to happen. Chase still in 4th. Dusty Lusky has the top spot. Slayer Eyes has gotten round Race Chase for the 3rd. Gab around Adeltonian, Noganator and Josh Senior up 2 each, and Boo Mason down 1. Brian Mosser down 3. It's not been a good start at all for the lone McLaren on the grid, as they make their way now heading through the Singapore Sling and over the bridge. Not a lot of grip going through out of that acceleration point and in towards turn 13 hairpin here. DRS would be activated next time by going through this section of the track. Now, this is where I'm talking about with the new DRS zone that's not in the game. That would start about now through this section of the track, all throughout this kink at turn 15, down in towards the braking zone, coming up here at 16. That is the braking zone that's been added. In real life, it's not here in the game. It should be. 0.2 of a second. Anyways, Noganator's going to get round Adeltonian to the inside. Now up to the 8th position for the Noganator. He's now up 3, currently the biggest mover of the day so far as we complete the first lap. Josh Senior may have a look at Adeltonian here as they make their way toward the first corner. Bit of a lockup for somebody ahead. The grid will file their way through. And Boo Mason has actually lost about 2 seconds to the back end of Josh Senior. Brian Mosser nearly had a look at the Haas then. He was within a 1/10 of a second for quite some time. Dusty Lusky does lead the grid out of turn 5, 6, and 7, heading in towards... as we got a Ferrari's gone round, it's Josh Senior, and he's lost a bit of the front wing too. Not ideal, that car already in a heap of trouble. Looks like the track's going to stay green as the grid makes their way into turn 9 now, exiting the corner. Dusty Lusky leads Cam Tizzle by 3.5 of a second. Cam Tizzle, remember, the lone representative of the hard tires this evening. When it comes to the choice of rubber, sometimes going hard is the best option. Not necessarily tonight, though. And I have to think that, well, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Cam Tizzle, for the time being, could be in a good position. He'll have DRS activated. Again, if the rain comes into this Grand Prix like they say it will, like Brian Mosser has told me, it should be about 45 minutes into the race. I think Cam Tizzle may have a good look there because he won't need to stop. The cars around him, by that point of the race may need to, and I think that is a huge benefit of being hard at this stage of the race. It's side by side between Noganator and Gab heading into turn 16. Noganator's going to back out there, will retreat to the 8th position, but a good move there for Gab to stay ahead. It'll be Dusty Lusky leading the lap now. Cam Tizzle behind by about 0.4 of a second. So with the top 4, relatively in a league of their own. They've put 2 seconds back to Israel, who has a 1.5 over Knuckles, 2.5 over Gab, who is very much under pressure from the Noganator. But we'll check back with them in a minute. We're back to the battle for the top 4. Race Chase bringing up the tail end of this battle now amongst the podium sitters. Down the DRS section they go out of turn 5. Looking like there probably won't be a move made here, not necessarily with this train of DRS that we do have going. Maybe will the move be made for the Noganator. Ahead of him, Gab did not have DRS. Noganator was not close enough to make the move. Will Brian Mosser have a look at Boo Mason? He had a slight peek to the inside, not really going to commit from that far away, but is still in a good spot. Heading in towards turn 10 now. Dusty Lusky leads Cam Tizzle 4.5 of a second. Slayer Eyes by 0.5 of a second to make their way through the Singapore Sling and across the bridge and in towards turn 13. Sometimes you will see the odd move be made through there. It's not going to happen this time. What's even more rare is these DRS moves in towards turn 14 here. It's not really a good part of the track to try to make something happen. The wall on the outside gets up close to you very, very much too quickly. And there's no room on the inside to actually go off if you do try to outbrake the next driver and have to take evasive action. It's very tight through there. You're not going to see much happen unless, desperation is the call, which at some point in the Grand Prix I'm sure very much could be. Maybe to Slayerize, have a look to the inside of Camtizzle. Not really going to happen in the turn 1. It's interesting because the DRS zones here aren't really the best spots for overtaking. I would argue you're going to see more into turn 8. You're going to see more in towards turn 7. Of course, that's really, I would say, the best DRS zone on the track is this one coming up here, exiting 5, through 6 in a second, and then over through turn 7. This is probably the best spot of the track where an overtake could be made. Slayer is going to have a small peek at Camtizzle there, not really committed to making that happen. I'm thinking next up, as Gab is going to get around Knuckles to the inside. The Red Bull outbreaking the V-carb here. Does he stay ahead? Not quite. But this is what I'm talking about here, because now Knuckles has only just been kind of overtaken. That move could realistically be made again into turn 8. 9's really not going to have much. 10, not anything at all, I would guess. He makes something happen into turn 10. You're either doing something correctly or you're George Russell moving into the barriers. 13 in desperation could be used as his own, or if a mistake happens like that. Now, Slayerize pushed quite wide, but I tell you what, Slayerize was kind of in a position there where if Race Chase tried to move to his inside, he was going to make contact with the Red Bull. So Slayerize accidentally defended that corner pretty well, despite his mistake. 0.8 of a second between the top two. Dusty Lusky leads Camtizzle, 6.5 tenths now. Dusty starting to pull a little bit further ahead. We do have some battles going on behind. Noganator within half a second of Knuckles. Not close enough for the time being to make something happen. The closest battles on track still remain with the top 4. As heading into the first corner they go, Dusty still leads by half a second. Camtizzle behind. Again, Camtizzle, I think, really is in a difficult spot right now because he's on the hard tires. He's in this race for the long run. He's not too concerned for the time being about what Dusty Lusky does. We may see Camtizzle just play it really chill. Again, especially if the rain comes in and Camtizzle is still out on his hard tires, he will have the absolute advantage here. 0.2 of a second was the gap between the top two on the way through turn 7. No semblance of an overtake being made there. Maybe through 8. Nah, not quite. Nearly a move being made behind. Noganator got close enough to Knuckles there. Didn't quite look as if they were, in position to make something happen. Still the closest battle. 2.5 of a second between Dusty and Camtizzle going through the Singapore Sling and over the bridge. In the 13th corner, Dusty still leads, not quite close enough. Camtizzle yet. Maybe with DRS activated, you could see it, the rear wing opening there. Not, again, really closing in at a rate, I think, where the Aston Martin will need to panic. I think that's a big thing for Camtizzle. Do you wear down the car ahead of you? Dusty Lusky, the veteran that he is, he's not really going to be caught out by surprise if an overtake happens. But, again, maybe it's one of those things where, potentially he could, maybe he, kind of looks a little bit more tentative. Well, not tentative as Race Chase. He's going to have a look to the inside of Slayerize here going into the first corner. Slayerize under pressure, but kind of slips away from him there. What we're looking at now is just kind of a 0.1 of a second battle here. Andrew Mason potentially trying the outside of 8 Altoni, and 8 actually goes quite wide, exiting 5. Andrew Mason's going to have that move made even before DRS gets activated for the Haas. Exiting turn 9, heading down the little straight into 10. Camtizzle having a little peek to the inside. I think, Camtizzle, if he wants this lead of the race quicker, may just have to make kind of an unorthodox move like that. He's got to make a move into a place Dusty won't be, prepared to defend. I think that's kind of got to be the way about for Cam, unless realistically, he wants to wait and make that move happen with DRS, or just wait and let strategy do its thing. Exiting 14, a little bit of a slip there for Cam, but for the time being still has himself in a good position. 0.2 of a second, maybe now. He's used about half his battery here. Gets himself to within 1.5 tenths, and I'm thinking realistically, does Cam start attacking now? Of course, it's in a difficult spot because the next car behind is Slayerize, behind by 1.5 seconds. Oh, Slayerize just lost it kind of on his own. Brilliant save. But I'm afraid he's going to be tumbling down the order now unless does Israel not be close enough to make something happen. And no, actually, Slayerize kind of gets a little bit lucky there. He kind of spins the car on his own coming out of the final corner. Only loses the spot to Race Chase. He'll have to defend from Israel, as we do have a yellow flag of Josh Sr. off at the Singapore Sling. He has lost another bit of the front wing. That's his second end plate loss of the day. Cam Tizzle now with DRS to the inside, going in through 7. Lock up for both cars on the way in. Cam Tizzle can't put the power down good enough to get around Dusty. Maybe does the Noganator have it on Cam Tizzle here. Or, sorry, Knuckles. A little bit of contact there. I say a little bit. Actually, kind of a noticeable amount. Noganator will, I think, cede position for the time being. Into the corner. Knuckles goes deep. Noganator, I don't think, is going to make a move happen now. Through the Singapore Sling. Over the bridge coming up next. Cam Tizzle still 10th and a half behind Dusty. Out of turn 13 they go. DRS activated for the cars. I do not believe Cam's going to have it this time, no. Israel may have a look at Slayerize, though. I think Israel might be the quicker car between the two, especially considering Slayerize just had that mistake. You know, if you allow mistakes to pile up, that definitely gets to be very detrimental to the rest of your race. And I'm thinking maybe could that start happening for Slayerize. What we do know is that unfortunately Josh Sr. has retired after now having to make what would be his second wing change of the race. That Ferrari has retired. Down the pit straight into the first corner, Cam Tizzle behind by 0.3 of a second. Israel behind by about 3.5, 4/10 behind for Noganator, and 6.5 for Brian Mostert to Adel Tony. Those are the closest battles on track for the time being. Noganator might get close enough to Cam Tizzle here, but Dusty Lusky, will he have to defend for Cam Tizzle? Sorry, that's Knuckles I keep mistakenly referring to. Cam Tizzle to the inside of Dusty Lusky, and there you go. Lead change. Cam Tizzle now taking the top spot. Potentially are the hards, being worked in here as the better tire. Race Chase nearly had to take to the escape road there. He went quite deep into turn 8. Thankfully, he's kept it in position. Knuckles and Noganator now once again battling side by side, exiting turn 7 into 8. Noganator going to try to outbrake round the outside. Maybe does he try to switch back as Knuckles still now has the outside. Now through 9. Again, difficult spot of the track to make something happen. Knuckles has the position for the time being. Noganator, I think, is going to have to hold on and wait for DRS because that was good defending from Knuckles to be able to hold that spot. I think the Red Bull of Gab there may have made a slight mistake coming out of 13. He suddenly fell back from that battle. Cam Tizzle ahead of Dusty Lusky only by about 0.3 of a second. That is not convincing enough for me to say that the hards are the better tire for the time being. I think Cam Tizzle may have outpaced him with the aid of DRS, but for the time being, he's really not, I think, king of the mountain here. Not quite yet. 2.5 tenths now in towards turn 1. It looks as if Race Chase has now been able to catch back up to this battle. 0.3 of a second away for the Mercedes in question, away from Dusty Lusky. Could we potentially see that Mercedes become more relevant in the battle for the lead here? It's going to depend on what Dusty decides to do here, because now Cam Tizzle's in an interesting spot. 2's a crowd. 3 is it? What's the saying? I don't even know. Dusty Lusky trying it round the outside through turn 7, and it looks like Dusty is going to be the new leader if he can hold on through turn 8. It looks like he can. Cam Tizzle has a bit of a tank slapper on the way out, and Dusty Lusky back up to the lead. What I was about to say is this: maybe does that now allow Race Chase in position here to maybe have a move on the 2 cars ahead, especially if they continue to battle. I was thinking that Race Chase was actually going to have a bit of help there with DRS, considering Cam wasn't going to have it. Dusty would. As they, form in the train, the head of the train is always going to be kind of the slower car, especially without DRS. Maybe now is that the case as they make their way up towards turn 14. Dusty still has the lead over Cam Tizzle. I'm not quite sure if that was just a pure DRS overtake there, or Cam Tizzle made a mistake. I think maybe the only mistake was probably allowing that much room. Israel to the back end of Slayerize, 5.5 tenths of a second. Noganator could have a look at Knuckles here. Once again, this battle for the 7th position going quite well. Although what I will say, these two have been battling so well that they've actually opened up an 8-second gap from Knuckles up to Gab for the 6th position. By the way, Gab and Israel now could be very much in a good battle here quite shortly, but we go back along with the battle for the lead. Dusty has Cam Tizzle by 3.5 tenths of a second. Going through turn 5, they'll have DRS here just moments away, as Brian Mosser and Adel Tonian's actually into the pit lane. He's missing the end plate on the left front side. TRS activated. Cam Tizzle, does he have a look to the inside? Not quite this time. He's not going to be close enough to make that happen. Does Israel have a look on Slayerized? No. Israel actually rather in a Red Bull sandwich at the moment. God, could you imagine making a sandwich with Red Bull? That'd be disgusting. Anyways, Noganator and Knuckles once again battling. Noganator will outbreak the V-Carb this time and will be able to stay ahead of him. That's what he tried to do before when he actually rather pushed Knuckles out of the way and then eventually gave the spot back. But Noganator has gotten around Knuckles up to 7th. We rejoin the battle for the lead, going through turn 13. It appears Dusty Lusky still has a 0.3 of a second advantage over Cam Tizzle. He's, I don't think, going to be close enough to make something happen here. We're about a third of the way through this Grand Prix. Cam Tizzle, 2.5 of a second. Maybe does he have a look here? I tell you what, yes he will. Cam Tizzle having a look to the inside, going in towards turn 16, and the V-Carb back in the lead of this Grand Prix. That was slightly unexpected there. Maybe did Dusty just have the door open? That does happen. Oh, do excuse me for a second. My controller battery is about to die. You know, I tell you what, this thing... I was going to say something. I was going to make a joke, but I don't want to get canceled. Is that plugged in all the way? Yeah. As they exit turn 5, heading down the stretch here, it appears that it's still 6.5, 0.5 of a second in closing here, and I think realistically, Cam Tizzle, it's going to be interesting to see if he can start to pull the pace on Dusty Lusky and the rest. Oh, way deep into the corner is Israel. I don't know, has he had help there from the Red Bull behind, or has he done that on his own? Because he's gone well deep into the corner. We do now have the V-Carb of Knuckles as well. Something's gone wrong with him. Maybe as he had a bit of a spin, I'm not quite sure, but he's fallen off the pace now down to 9th. I'm just wondering how Israel managed to go that deep in the corner. I'm looking along with Gab, or maybe I'll have to go with Slayer Eyes too. Maybe does one of them have wing damage, and that will tell the tale as to why Israel's gone that deep in the corner. I tell you what, unless he was really sending it, I mean, you're just not going to go that deep into turn 7. Neither of the Red Bulls appear to have damage. Maybe that was just pure error on the part of Israel. It could be. The gap for the lead is now up to about 7.5 of a second. That's kind of what I figured was going to start happening. We're 11 laps in now, getting closer to the pit window for the medium tires. This is where I think Cam Tizzle's actually going to start to get out to a hell of an advantage, considering that he does not have to make this stop immediately. He can wait until the rain happens, if it does happen, and he'll be A-OK. Two-tenths of a second here. Israel making contact with the wall out of turn 5. Let's see if Israel has a go now. Heading in towards turn 7. He will go around the outside and into the corner, up to 4th for the Williams. Once again, half a second, the battle for the lead here. Cam Tizzle does lead them, heading in towards turn 10 and the Singapore Sling, and then over the bridge. Israel, and I think that Williams actually starting to maybe even fall back more. I thought for a second he was actually closing into the battle for the top 3. It's actually not the case. He's lost an additional probably 3-4 of a second in just the one sentence I completed then. We're getting closer to halfway through here. A couple of laps time and we'll be at that point. Cam Tizzle has the lead. Dusty Lusky 2nd. Race Chase 3rd. We'll actually have a look at the positions gained and lost as well. Race Chase started 3rd, still 3rd. Israel up to 4th, Slayer Eyes down to 5th, Gab up to 6th is +2, Noganator up to 7th +4, Andrew Mason up to 8th +2, Knuckles is down 3 to 9th, Brian Mosser down 1 to 10th, Frenchie up 2 to 11th, Adoltonian down 5 to 12th, and he is currently the last car out on track, 18 seconds behind his teammate. Josh Sr. Has retired from the Grand Prix after having had a bit of a moment twice and having to what would then be replace 2 front wings, and yeah, that's just not very good on the mental aspect of fulfilling a Grand Prix. Cam Tizzle still leads Dusty, and that gap is actually getting a little bit larger now. It's about 9/10 of a second. And now almost over a second there. Dusty is still within DRS range, although not even relatively close enough to be able to make something happen with it. I think realistically right now we are starting to see the hards be the favored tire. It will have, you know, a little bit of impact here, I say. It looks as if actually got a good battle going there. Knuckles has recently pit. Adeltonian actually round the outside. As we go along with that, will not go along with it, Dusty Lusky into the pit lane. Will now fall back to third. So we are starting to see the pit stops come into play here as Israel becomes our first driver of the day with a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. We got two drivers in the pit lane. Dusty Lusky and Slayerized are two fellas into the pit lane then. Looks as if Noganator is going to come out ahead of the Aston Martin in question. We are starting to see quite a couple of gaps in the leaderboards now. Gab to Israel is the only battle on track within a second of each other. Adeltonian has just pit. He'll come out behind that of Brian Mosser. Looks as if Frenchie retreats towards the pit lane now. Still about, well, now a second between Slayerized and Brian Mosser. That could be a fun one here. Let's go along with that. That's our current and closest battle on track, aside from that of Gab to the back end of Israel. Now as we are starting to see these guys do retreat towards the hard tires. Question is now, I mean, we see guys like Race Chase, Israel, Noganator, Gab, Anbu and Brian. I mean, do we see them try to stay out for as long as they possibly can? Because knowing that there is probably more likely than not rain on the way. Well, that answers the question on behalf of Race Chase. He's into the pit lane. Two and a half tenths of a second here. Slayerized to the back end of Knuckles. Race Chase into the pit lane. He'll exit about 6th. It looks as if Andrew Mason is pit behind him. Brian Mosser and Slayerized actually now very close here. 0.2 of a second. Slayerized has actually decided not to attack the McLaren this time. A little odd. He was right close enough to do so. He just hasn't. Six and a half, 0.5 of a second for Gab to Israel, and this is for, I believe, what will be, it's not quite going to matter for the time being. These four, at the top four, have yet to stop. Of course, Brian Mosser, the only other fella on the mediums to not have stopped yet. Israel, Gab, Noganator, and Brian Mosser, the four who haven't. Remember, Cam Tizzle was the only driver on the grid to actually start on the hard tires, which we thought was going to be the better decision. As we have a good 3-car battle here, and Adeltonian leads the charge. Back to Andrew Mason. It looks like Noganator's actually been overtaken then by Dusty in towards turn 14. Those two have no lack of history between them. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you think about the middle ages here of Division 2, as Israel picking up a tenner for speeding into the pit lane. Think about the middle ages of Division 2 here. You know, we're talking seasons 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, we got guys like Noganator, Slayerized, Brian Mosser, Dusty Lusky, Cam Tizzle, Knuckles in that matter in that as well. Though Knuckles kind of more so spent his tenure in Division 3. A lot of these guys still kicking here. Adeltonian as well. How the hell can I forget about him? It's not been official yet. The longest tenured Division 2 driver in Midwest history. Brian Mosser finally retreats to the pit lane here. It's going to be fresh, hard rubber for him. Cam Tizzle now has what appears to be about a free pit stop over Dusty Lusky. Having a feeling he's not going to make that stop quite yet. Let's assume the lap times are 90 seconds. Lap times 90 seconds each. Cam Tizzle into the pit lane here. We're about to begin lap 17. 1,530 seconds. Yeah, if I'm doing the math right, we are about 25 and a half minutes into this session. Am I right about that? Yeah-ish. So the rain's still probably about 20 minutes away, if it is on its way. Of course, when we spend these laps in green flag conditions, that tells me, you know, we're probably just not going to get the rain until maybe the last couple of laps. Cam Tizzle out of the pit lane here. Oh, he's going to be right close to Dusty. Hang on just a minute. I thought it was a free pit stop. As it turns out, we got ourselves a hell of a battle here, at least for the time being, while Cam Tizzle doesn't have his tires up to temperature. He's going to get back to the inside of Dusty Lusky. He'll have DRS, of course, and fresher tires, and Cam Tizzle will rather predictably retake the lead of the Grand Prix. So free pit stop, not necessarily, but also kind of. Oh, Israel has rather smacked the wall there coming into turn 5. Slayer Eyes now to the outside, and we'll go up to 4th. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Cam Tizzle still first, Dusty Lusky second, Race Chase third. I do have some good battles actually going on now. Adoltonian leading the charge here, about 3.5 tenths of a second. Andrew Mason, does he have a send to the inside, going through turn 7? Not quite. Knuckles trying to join up to the back end of that one as well. Once again, the Williams of Israel in a Red Bull sandwich. And Cam Tizzle still in the lead as we're getting closer to 10 laps to go. That gap is now eclipsed a second. Of course, Dusty Lusky still has the DRS. Race Chase actually picking up the fastest lap of the session now. That's a little bit surprising there. Especially considering he's not really getting closer to Dusty Lusky, despite now having the best lap of the Grand Prix. Closest battle on track, Andrew Mason back to Adoltonian. It's about 4 tenths of a second here. Matter of fact, Knuckles starting to fall back behind in this battle for the 8th spot. We do also have Gab getting relatively close to Israel here. That's about 3.5 tenths of a second. I bet that move's going to be made potentially here with DRS. 2 tenths of a second now on the way in towards turn 7. He'll try the inside, Gab. Will he be able to hold on and take the spot? Oh, he got right close there to actually making contact with the Williams. Not quite. Stays 6th. We do now have Adoltonian once more leading the charge for the 8th spot. Andrew Mason behind by 6 tenths. Knuckles behind by 2 tenths. Knuckles might be in a good spot here to pick up a couple. He'll have to, I'd say what, Andrew Mason defending quite well. Knuckles isn't going to be able to have that look. Adoltonian's gone deep in towards turn 7. That may close things up a little bit here. Through turn 8 they go. Next up, turn 9. Three and a half, 3 tenths of a second. Now Knuckles to the back end of Andrew Mason. We don't believe he's going to be close enough to make it happen yet. Cam Tizzle, the now fastest lap of the session, taking that title from what was Race Chase. He's actually ahead of Race Chase now by nearly, 8 tenths of a second. So Cam Tizzle putting the paces here to Division 2. Gab to the back end of Israel, about 4 tenths of a second. We've got Anbu behind Adoltonian, that's about 4.5, 5 tenths of a second. Gab behind by 3 to Israel still. Good battle this going on between these guys. Of course, hasn't yielded the overtakes yet, but it's all a matter of trusting the process, really. That's kind of the big thing towards that. Gab within 3 tenths of a second here of Israel heading in towards The Singapore Sling now. Israel seems to be recharging his energy, telling me that doesn't quite appear to be close enough to make that move happen. Maybe half a second here, race chase on Dusty Lusky going through 16, 17, in through 18 and 19 now. All the while, Cam Tizzle has actually eclipsed about 2 seconds. A gap over Dusty Lusky. Race Chase is now what is probably the favorite to go on and take that second spot. Cam Tizzle, again, did go back-to-back earlier this season. Remember, it was a very interesting kind of start to this season. 6 races, 3 different winners, all going back-to-back. Twinkie Cream went back-to-back Monaco. Hungary, Dusty in Belgium, Portugal. And then Cam Tizzle, Australia and Austria. Of course, half a second still between Race Chase and the rest. Knuckles within a half a second on Ambu Mason. Potentially, could we see a move be made there? Gab 3.5 back to Israel. This is now going over the bridge and heading in towards 13. I'm assuming we're, again, probably not going to see a move be made this time. You're just not quite going to make that happen into this 14th corner. Again, it's just way too narrow. No forgiveness at all. Well, that's about as perfectly timed as it could have been. So as we're now on the 21st lap of the Grand Prix, it's about half a second here between Race Chase and Dusty Lusky. DRS will be activated here for the Mercedes. Can he potentially have a move at Dusty Lusky heading in towards turn 7? I don't think he's going to be close enough for the time being. Still remaining in third. Andrew Mason may have a look at Adol Tony, and of course he'll have DRS going down the pit straight here. At the line this next time will be 10 laps to go here, and what has been a interesting Singapore Grand Prix. Just a reminder, the next couple of races on tap, we do have Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache coming up next in Brazil. We've got Canada. And then we've got Japan, the penultimate round of the season. Ambu Mason, oh, well, he had a look to the inside of Adol Tony in there. Maybe a little bit of contact there, and unfortunately Ambu Mason dropping a couple of spots. Gab, oh, Israel's actually gone round on the bridge. That car is perpendicular, and he's got some front wing missing too. He's got to get that car sorted out here, because if he doesn't, we're going to have a collision. Oh, God, Noganator coming through. Goodness me, it's a whole traffic jam here on the bridge. As Israel does lose a bit of the front wing. That is a massive, unfortunate moment there for Israel. I did almost think there for a second that Noganator was going to actually go and like collide then massively with Israel. He was in a position. He didn't really slow that car down until last second. Of course, he didn't obviously see he was there. It's a blind corner, turning that from the left-hander and then going over the bridge through 12 and into 13. You can't quite see past it. There are 10 laps to go here. Israel into the pit lane, pitting for a front wing. Once again, we've got Brazil next week. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We go to the Suzuka International Racing Course for the penultimate round of the season and to round things out at COTA. Still 0.4 of a second for Andrew Mason back to Adoltonian. We're now within the last 10 laps of this Grand Prix. We'll have 8 laps to go with the line this time. Still no sight of the rain. We need, I think we could use a little bit of rain right now to spice this up. Half a second here. Race chase to the back end of Dusty Lusky, now going through turn 8 in towards turn 9. Still half a second here. I'm just wondering what the tire differential is between them. It's about 9 and 8 laps. No difference there whatsoever. Israel, I think, is still on a 3 for multiple warnings. Remember, he had the 10er for speeding into the pit lane. 0.3 of a second now. Andrew Mason back to Adoltonian. This making their way going out of turn 3, 4, and eventually in towards 5. In towards turn 8 now. What? Adoltonian's gotten a little unsettled going over the curb there. Four and a half tenths of a second. Maybe can race chase close into Dusty Lusky here. Not quite. Thinking that Mercedes is going to have a really good opportunity here in the next couple of laps, of course. Dusty won't have DRS to the car ahead of him, being that he's 3 seconds behind. There goes DRS for the Mercedes, maybe potentially in towards 7. We have a bit of a dive. He's not going to be close enough to make that happen. We do have Anbus still 4.5 back to Adoltonian. .3 of a second for race chase back to Dusty Lusky. Making their way in towards the hairpin at turn 13. Still not really a sign of a overtake to come potentially between these couple of guys here. I'm just wondering when race chase decides that the best time is upon us. Realistically, you're running out of laps here. That's the bottom line. .4 of a second for Andrew Mason back to Adoltonian still. Race Chase has actually lost a bit of time back to Dusty Lusky as they make their way now in towards the first corner. We do have Israel and Cam Tizzle close enough with each other on track here. That will allow, I think when Dusty Lusky actually gets close enough to the back marker of Israel, that will give him DRS to get round said back marker. Unfortunate race here for Israel, who was looking to have a halfway decent result. He was up a couple of positions. They're looking well enough to finish in 4th. Of course, the time penalty wouldn't have helped him, but he would have still been at least in a halfway decent spot. The line this next time by will be 6 laps to go here. As Israel actually getting around Frenchie. Adoltonian now picking up a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. Israel's gotten around Frenchie there going through turn 10. That's a little bit of an odd spot. Maybe as Israel kind of capitalized on getting around Frenchie, as Frenchie would have been getting out of the way for the leader of Cam Tizzle. It's interesting. Israel's actually got DRS to the back end of Cam Tizzle. I didn't know back markers had DRS to unlap themselves. Now can potentially Andrew Mason find his way around Adoltonian. Of course, Adol does have the 3-second penalty to his name. That'll make things easier for Anbu. Just wondering if we are going to see that rain towards the back end of the session. It's looking increasingly like that's just not going to happen. But expect the rain, if it is on its way, probably in about 5 minutes' time. Whether or not it will make, enough of an impact in this race at that point, as I think is yet to be decided here. Oh, so we have a yellow flag. Someone's gone round. I think it's that the Haas, it is, of Van Mason. He's done the safe reset to track there. Doesn't appear that he's lost any front wing, and the track stays green, other than just that one little sector there. Five laps to go here in Singapore. Can Race Chase find his way around Dusty Lusky and take second? Can Dusty Lusky look to hold on to that second spot, and can Cam Tizzle keep his car settled for another 5 laps and be able to take home the Singapore Grand Prix victory, his first since, I believe it was, that Austrian round. That would have been round 6 then. It's been a couple of races. 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the 5th race on since his last win. Seven and a half, 0.8 of a second here. Race Chase is just really not close enough to make something happen at this point. The only other close battle on track is that of Gab back to his teammate of Slayer Eyes, that being for the 4th position. We do have another yellow flag. Noganator is retired from the session. It's a virtual safety car, but Noganator has bended on his own. That coming out of turn 8. That's a bit of a bold spot to make that happen, really. What has happened there? Frenchie's picked up a 10er for speeding to the pit lane. Oh, this is interesting. Could Frenchie be potentially pitting for intermediates coming up here? I don't know if the rain is close enough on his way. Could Frenchie be in a position to do that? No, he is going to be going to the softs. Bit of wishful drinking for me. But Noganator, what a surprising end to his race there. So this will mark what I believe is going to be the 2nd longest winless drought in Division 2 here. That'll belong to Slayer Eyes at 44 races after today. I think the only other one bigger than that is that of Adaltonian. DRS is being re-enabled here. Last time Adaltonian won a race here in Division 2. Has he ever? Not actually sure that he has. That is way too many races to count, as it turns out. No, he hasn't. I don't think Adaltonian's actually ever won a Division 2 Grand Prix, which is a little surprising. That's kind of the thing with racing, you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to just hold in there as long as you can, because realistically, one day you are just going to get one. Could it be shit luck? Yeah, probably. Cam Tizzle has stopped, or something. I don't know. He is, well, on 12-lap old medium tires. Suddenly we have ourselves a battle for this race here. Cam Tizzle was ahead by quite a good amount, and now suddenly, fuck, I'm sorry for not really paying attention, but none of these battles have been close enough to each other until right about now. I mean, we're going to have 2 laps to go at the line this time, and we've got ourselves the top 3 within a hell of a close amount of room of each other here. Cam Tizzle still leads, going over the bridge in towards turn 13. Dusty Lusky will be looking for it here. He's not quite close enough. Race Chase in behind as well. Remember, Race Chase, I think, was really the driver we were looking out for here, because ideally he would have made this move over Dusty by now, but again, he's not had the chance. And now, again, the top 3, very close quarters with each other here, coming to 2 laps to go. Heading into 16 and 17, Cam Tizzle still unchallenged by Dusty Lusky and Race Chase. Just not really close enough for the time being to be able to make this happen as they exit turns 18 and 19 and down the pit straight for the penultimate time. Cam Tizzle leads Dusty Lusky 0.2 of a second, making their way through Sector 1. Race Chase close enough behind, I think, to maybe play a factor in this amongst the top 3. Again, Cam Tizzle hasn't won since round 6. Dusty Lusky, I believe, or was it Race Chase, either won 2 out of the last 3. Through turn 6, into turn 7, Dusty Lusky trying it around the outside. Well, that's interesting. Well, I'm just noticing this now. Cam Tizzle's actually missing the end plate on the right front side of his front wing. That something has happened along the line for Cam Tizzle that I have not noticed. And he's got to hold on here, missing a bit of his front wing. Maybe will Israel have a good camera angle out of this battle as they make their way through turn 10, through Singapore Sling, over turn 12, in towards the hairpin at turn 13 for the penultimate time. Does anybody have a look into the corner here? I'm assuming, again, that move, if it is made, is going to happen in towards turn 7. The 2 Red Bulls have inverted position. Brian Moster's picked up a 3 for multiple warnings. In towards 14, it's still Cam Tizzle, Dusty Lusky, and Race Chase, all within close quarters of each other here. It's 0.2 of a second. Dusty's not quite close enough yet. Cam Tizzle is on the mediums. Maybe is Dusty, are we getting into the position where those hards are starting to be better? Of course, they are 16 laps old, so, maybe that's not true, but still. To the line for the final time. Final lap of the Grand Prix underway in the top 3 within 3.5 of a second of each other, heading into turn 1. Suddenly, all hell, I think, is about to break loose here. Exiting turn 3 and 4 for the final time. Cam Tizzle leads 0.2 of a second. Race Chase also behind as well. Cam Tizzle switches to the outside. Yeah, he's not close enough to make that a good camera angle. Dusty Lusky round the outside. Race Chase watches on. Contact between the 2. I don't think there was anything wrong there. Dusty still now to the inside. Not going to have it. Race Chase, I think if he's going to have an opportunity to win this session, he's got to act fast. He's got to act now because he's just plain old, flat out not got time to do it. He's got 1 DRS zone left. Of course, exiting turn 14, which I'm sure if the game was accurate, that would have been a fantastic area to make an overtake. But not the case. Over the bridge for the final time into 13. Dusty has not gone desperate yet. Maybe now. Maybe as they exit 13. DRS activated for the Aston Martin in question. Can he have a look to the inside? Race Chase looks on. Maybe do they outbrake themselves into the corner? Race Chase in behind. Dusty's spun out of position. Now Race Chase on Cam Tizzle from 3rd to 1st. Does he make it happen? Round the outside through turn 16. Wheel to wheel still. Race Chase to the inside. Cam Tizzle still there. Oh, and they're into the wall with each other. God damn it, they've made it all happen. It's all kicking off here. And Cam Tizzle will go on and win the Grand Prix. Dusty Lusky and Race Chase have done a good old-fashioned Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez on the final lap of the Grand Prix. A week removed from it happening in real life. Son of a bitch, that was almost comedic timing there. It's not going to matter, I think, in the end of it, if one of them picks up a penalty. Slayer Eyes is 53 seconds behind, I believe, as he was actually just letting his teammate pass there. Gab will finish 4th. Wow. Cam Tizzle wins in stunning fashion there. Dusty doesn't appear happy with Race Chase there. Cam Tizzle apologizing to Race Chase for having locked up on braking. Cam Tizzle is your winner today. Be sure to join us next time out when we head to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache for another division of the Midwest F1 League. Hotspot, it has been a pleasure joining you once again here. And as the Haas of Anbu Mason crosses the line coming up next, we'll see you next time.